The wind was cold on the edge of Zone 9. Darren stood beside his old scavenger ship. Looking at the wreckage ahead, smoke rose from a strange pod that had crashed just hours ago. His scanner showed no signs of life, but something in his gut said otherwise. He pulled out his plasma torch and stepped forward. Zone 9 was forbidden territory, filled with old war debris and toxic lands. But Darren wasn't afraid of danger. He had been alone for years. No one to protect, nothing to lose. As he moved closer, the crash site became clearer. The pod wasn't human-made. Its surface shimmered with a strange metal, like liquid glass. Symbols covered its sides, none of them from any known language. He touched the outer shell. It was warm, still alive, maybe, suddenly. The pod made a soft clicking noise. Darren stepped back, raising his gun. A small hatch opened slowly with a hiss. He held his breath, waiting. No sound came from inside, only darkness and smoke. Then something moved. A small shadow, barely 2 feet tall, crawled out. It was a child, thin, covered in ash. Wearing strange cloth-like threads of silver, she looked up at him with wide, glowing eyes. Her skin was pale violet, her hair soft white like snow. She was trembling, barefoot. And bleeding. Darren didn't lower his gun. What the hell? He whispered. The girl didn't speak. She stared at him, afraid. Her tiny hands shaking. Then, slowly, she collapsed, falling to her knees. Darren rushed forward without thinking. He caught her before she hit the ground. Her body was light too. Light like she hadn't eaten in days. He looked around. No other pods, no ships. No signs of rescue. She was alone. Darren looked down at her face. She blinked weakly, her lips dry. "Water," she whispered, barely a sound. His heart sank. She was scared, but not a threat. Just a lost, hungry child. "All right, kid," he said, lifting her in his arms. "Let's get you somewhere safe." He carried her back to his ship and placed her gently on the medbed. His AI assistant, Lex, scanned her quickly. Unknown species. The computer said, age, juvenile. Condition, dehydrated and malnourished. Darren gave her water first. She sipped slowly, her hands still shaking. Then he gave her some soft food. She ate without looking up, like a wild animal. Hours passed. She stayed silent, hiding under a blanket, eyes always watching him. Darren didn't ask questions yet. He just waited. He sat across the room, checking his logs. Outside, a storm started to build. Wind howled, and the ship shook gently. Suddenly, he heard a soft voice. "You? Not take me back?" Darren looked up, surprised. She was sitting up now, holding the blanket tightly. Her voice was quiet, broken, but full of fear. "No," he said. "I don't even know where you came from." The girl stared at him. Her eyes glowed again, like stars in the night. "My people. Gone," she said. Big fire. Loud sky. No one left. Darren stood slowly. "You were running." She nodded. "Mother told me to hide." He walked over, kneeling beside the bed. "What's your name?" She hesitated, then touched her chest. "Aya," she said. "Aya," Darren repeated. "That's a good name." She looked at him for a long moment, then asked, "And you?" "Darren," he said. "I'm just a junk pilot." She didn't understand that, but she smiled weakly. Then her face turned serious again. "Will you sell me?" she asked. Darren frowned. "What?" "No." Aya looked down. "Others did. When they found us," Darren's chest tightened. "Whoever had found her before didn't help her. They used her, or worse. I'm not like them." He said, "You're safe here." She looked into his eyes, searching for the truth. Then, in a voice so soft it was barely there, she asked, "Can I call you Dad?" The words hit him like a punch. He froze, his throat dry. He hadn't heard that word in years, not since he lost his own daughter. He looked at her, fragile, broken, and desperate for safety. She didn't ask because she knew what it meant. She asked because she wanted to believe in something again. I'm not your dad, he said, but if it helps. Yeah, you can call me that. Aya nodded once, then leaned forward. Resting her head against his chest, her body stopped shaking. For the first time, she felt warmth. Darren gently placed his hand on her back. The moment was silent, heavy with something deep. Outside, lightning lit up the dark sky. The storm raged, but inside the ship, a new bond had begun. Darren didn't know what came next. He didn't know who was looking for her or what she really was, but he knew one thing. He couldn't walk away now. She had called him Dad, and he wasn't ready for what came next. The next morning. The sky was dark and full of thunder. Darren stood outside his ship, scanning the horizon with his old binoculars. The crash had made noise, too much noise, and someone, somewhere, would come looking. Inside the ship, Aya slept quietly in a warm blanket. Her breathing was calm, but her little hands were clenched. She was still afraid. Even in her dreams, Darren walked back in, sat near the control panel, and checked the logs. Lex, the ship's AI, spoke softly. No alerts nearby, it said. But an unknown signal pinged the satellite grid last night. Darren frowned. Could be bounty hunters, he muttered. Or worse, he looked at Aya, still asleep. Then he opened a locked drawer under the control board. Inside was a black box, small and dusty. He hadn't used it in years. It was an old distress jammer. He turned it on, and a pulse ran through the ship. Now, at least for a little while, they were invisible. Aya woke up a few minutes later. She sat up slowly, rubbing her eyes. Her white hair was messy, and her violet skin still pale. Darren gave her warm tea and soft bread. She ate slowly, watching him with quiet eyes. You stay? She asked. Darren nodded. I'm not going anywhere. She looked down and whispered, People come. They take me. Not this time, he said. I'll keep you safe. Aya reached out and touched his hand. For a second, her fingers glowed softly. Darren felt something like a warm wave inside his chest. He didn't know what it was, but it didn't hurt. Lex beeped suddenly. Incoming object. 20 kilometers and closing. Darren stood fast. Type. He asked. Unmarked drone. Lex replied. Silent flight, heavy armor. Darren's heart sank. That's not a scout, he said. That's a hunter. He grabbed his rifle and turned to Aya. Go to the back room, he said. Hide. Under the floor, just like I showed you. Aya hesitated. Then nodded and ran to the small trapdoor under the bunk. She climbed in without a word. Darren closed the hatch gently. He took a deep breath and stepped outside. The sky above was quiet. But he could hear the faint hum of an engine. A black drone slowly descended from the clouds. Its red eye blinked, scanning the land. Darren didn't move. The drone paused in the air, then released a small probe. It flew toward his ship like a metal insect, LEX. Darren whispered, Disable it if it gets close. The AI responded, arming pulse charge. The probe came within 10 meters. Darren waited, calm, focused. The moment the probe reached scanning range, zap, the EMP went off. The drone shuddered, sparks flew, and it dropped to the ground. Dead, Darren sighed in relief. But then, a second sound. From the sky, another drone, larger, faster. Dropped from orbit. It wasn't scanning, it was aiming. A red light locked onto Darren's ship. He ran back inside, yelling, Lex. Takeoff protocol, now. But Aya, is she? Be safe in the hold. Just do it. The ship rumbled as it lifted off the ground. The drone fired a bright blue plasma beam, missed the rear by inches. Aya held tight under the floor, eyes wide. The ship jerked and climbed fast. Darren jumped into the pilot's seat, gripping the controls. He flew low between canyon walls, dodging laser blasts. The drone followed, fast and deadly. Darren flipped switches, opened the cargo flap, and armed the rear cannon. He pressed the trigger. Boom! The cannon hit the drone's wing, sending it spinning into the rocks. It exploded with a flash. The sky turned silent again. Darren slowed the ship and landed on a hidden plateau. His hands were shaking, his forehead wet with sweat. He opened the trap door. Aya climbed out slowly, her face pale but calm. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded. I stayed quiet. He knelt down and hugged her. "You were brave," he said. "Just like a warrior." Aya looked at him. "Why they follow me?" she asked. Darren hesitated. "I don't know," he said. "But I think you're special." Aya touched her chest. "Bad special?" He shook his head. "No. Very, very good special." She smiled a little, then asked, "You still my dad?" Darren smiled back. "Yeah," he said. More than ever, as the sun set behind the rocks, the two of them sat quietly, but far above them, in the cold dark of space. Something moved, a large ship, black, silent, powerful, activated. Its sensors, inside, a voice spoke. "We found her, back on the plateau." Darren looked at the stars. He knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot, but he had made a promise, and he was going to keep it, even if it meant going to war. Darren sat near the campfire, watching the flames dance. The ship was hidden under a cliff, covered with netting and rock dust. He had chosen this canyon for its silence. No signals, no watchers, just peace for now. Aya sat beside him, holding a warm cup of soup in both hands, her silver blanket wrapped tightly around her. She had not spoken much since the drone attack. Darren knew she had seen more than a child ever should. He didn't ask questions, not yet. She would talk when she was ready. The stars blinked overhead. Aya looked up at them with tired eyes. Then, without turning, she said softly, "My planet was called Yuria." Darren said nothing. He just listened. "Long time ago," she continued, "people from Sky came to us. They said they were friends." Her hands shook, but she didn't stop. "They gave us gifts, machines, medicines. But they also asked questions, took pictures, studied us." Darren looked into the fire. He had heard stories like this before. Friendly explorers who turned into something else. "One day, they asked my mother to give me," Aya said. "Not for trade, but for test." She said no. Her voice dropped lower. They left, and weeks later, ships came. Big ones, full of soldiers. Darren clenched his jaw. He could already see where this was going. "They called it peace," Aya said. "But they burned cities, broke mountains. Oh, my people ran, my mother. She told me to hide in the pod," she said. "She would come find me." Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't. Darren moved closer and gently placed his hand over hers. "I'm so sorry," he whispered. Aya didn't cry loudly. She just sat there, letting the tears fall, like she had been holding them in for too long. After a long silence, she asked, "Do you think she's alive?" Darren didn't lie. "I don't know," he said. "But if she is, we'll find her." Aya looked at him, her eyes glowing faintly in the firelight. "You believe me?" "I do," Darren said, "and I believe you're stronger than you think." She wiped her face and sat up straighter. Then she reached into her silver blanket and pulled out a tiny object. It was a glowing crystal the size of a coin. "My mother gave me this," she said. "She said it holds our family memory." Darren took it carefully. It was warm to the touch, pulsing slowly, like it was alive. Lex. He called to his ship AI. "Can you read this?" "Yes," the AI responded. "Place it on the console." Darren walked into the ship. placed the crystal down, and stepped back. A soft blue light filled the cabin. A hologram appeared, a tall woman with long white hair. Aya walked in, and gasped, "Mother," she whispered. The hologram spoke in her language, then switched to broken galactic standard. "If you find this, my daughter, know that I love you. Our world is lost. But your light is not. You carry more than memory, you carry our code." Darren narrowed his eyes. Code. The hologram continued. "Your blood is the key. They will come for you. To use your gift, but remember, you were born not to destroy, but to heal." Aya stared in shock. "My blood." Darren looked at her. "You said they wanted to test you," he said. "They weren't just curious, they knew you had something." Aya sat down on the floor. "I don't feel special," she said. "I feel scared." Darren knelt beside her. "I don't care if you're a code, a key, or a queen," he said. "To me, you're Aya." She smiled faintly. "Your daughter." He nodded. "My daughter." Suddenly Lex spoke again. "Warning, minor energy surge detected." "What kind of surge?" Darren asked. "From the child," Lex said. "Emotional stress is triggering internal energy release." Aya looked at her hands. They were glowing now. Not just soft light, but radiant. The floor around her hummed gently. "I didn't do anything," she said in panic. "I don't know how to stop it." "Calm down," Darren said. "Breathe." She tried, but the light grew stronger. The crystal on the console responded, glowing the same color. Suddenly, the hologram flashed again. "Protect her heart." It said, "Her power follows her pain." Darren looked at Aya. "Listen to me," he said gently. "You're safe. You're not alone." Aya closed her eyes, breathing slowly. The light began to fade. Bit by bit, the glow softened, then stopped. She opened her eyes again. "I didn't mean to scare you." "You didn't," Darren said. "You controlled it." Aya looked amazed. "I did." "You did?" He smiled. "You're learning." Lex spoke again. "New signal detected." Darren stood up fast. "Another drone." "No," Lex replied. "A ship, cloaked, orbiting above us." Darren's stomach sank. "They found us again." Aya stood too. "Will we run?" Darren looked at her, then at the stars above. "Not this time," he said. "It's time we stop hiding." Darren spent the next morning fixing the ship's outer shield. The sun was bright over the canyon, but his thoughts were heavy. Aya sat on a rock nearby, quietly drawing shapes in the dirt. He had expected to be alone forever, but now he had a child. A strange and powerful child who had called him Dad. The crystal was still in the ship, pulsing with soft blue light. Darren had read the message from Aya's mother twice. She knew this day would come. He looked over at Aya. She was humming softly, trying to draw a tree, but she stopped suddenly and frowned. "This doesn't look like trees from Urea," she said. Darren smiled. "Well, trees here are different," he said. "Doesn't mean yours are wrong." Aya tilted her head. "Can I see a real tree?" "Someday," Darren said, "once it's safe to go to the surface forests." She looked up at him. "Can I go to school like human kids?" Darren paused. That question hit hard. School, safety, a normal life, things he hadn't even thought about. "We'll figure something out," he said. "You're smart, Aya, smarter than human kids." She asked innocently. Darren laughed. "Probably," that night. Darren cooked dinner, simple food, rehydrated rice, a little protein, and vegetables from a sealed pack. Aya stared at the food, confused. "This is dinner?" "Yup," Darren said. "Welcome to real human survival food." She sniffed it, then tasted it carefully. Her face lit up. "It's not bad." They ate together in silence for a few minutes. Then Aya looked up. "Do dads always eat with kids?" Darren nodded. "Good ones do." "Did you have a daughter before?" she asked softly. Darren looked down. He hadn't spoken about her in a long time. "Yes," he said quietly. She was. Small like you. Her name was Rena. What happened? There was a war, Darren said. I couldn't save her. Aya didn't speak for a while. Then she walked over and placed her glowing hand on his arm. It wasn't your fault, she whispered. Something warm filled his chest. It wasn't just comfort. It was her energy. She was sharing her feelings with him. Peace, kindness, trust. He nodded slowly. Thanks, Aya. They spent the next few days in the canyon. Darren taught her how to read galactic letters. Aya learned fast. By day 3, she was reading labels and simple messages. He showed her how to work basic ship controls. She loved touching the buttons and watching lights flash, but she also asked questions. Hundreds of them. What's gravity? K. Why are stars hot? Why do humans cry? Darren answered as best as he could, and for the first time in years, he felt alive. Not just surviving, but living. One afternoon, Aya brought him a small drawing. It showed a stick figure of him, one of hers, and a small house with stars above. You drew us, he said, smiling. She nodded. Home, she said. Safe. Darren hung the drawing above the control panel. That's our flag now, he said. Our crew banner. Aya giggled. We're a crew. Yeah, he said. Dad and daughter. The best team in space. But peace doesn't last forever. Late that night, the ship alarm rang. Lex's voice echoed through the ship. Unidentified ship approaching. Darren jumped out of bed, grabbed his rifle, and ran to the cockpit. Aya followed, still half asleep. What is it? She asked a visitor. Darren said. Stay behind me on the monitor. A sleek black ship hovered above the canyon. No ID, no signal. Pure stealth, just like the ones that had hunted her before. They found us again, Aya whispered, her eyes glowing in fear. The ship opened a hatch, and a single figure dropped down, tall, armored, carrying a plasma blade. A hunter, Darren said. Stay here, lock the doors. No, Aya said. I want to help. You help by staying safe, he said firmly. I'll come back. Darren stepped out into the canyon. The wind was cold again. The figure stood on the rocks, unmoving. You've got something that doesn't belong to you. The hunter said. Darren raised his rifle. She's not a thing. The hunter smiled under the helmet. She's a key to power, to war. She's a child, Darren growled. She has a name. The hunter activated the blade. Step aside. Darren didn't move. I already lost one daughter, he said. I'm not losing. Another. The two charged at each other. Inside the ship, Aya closed her eyes. She placed both hands on the crystal. Her energy flowed into it, glowing brighter and brighter. Outside, the ground shook. A pulse of light flashed from the ship. The hunter stumbled, disoriented. Darren took the chance, tackled the attacker, and disabled the blade. He stood over the hunter, breathing hard. Go back and tell them, he said. She's not alone anymore. The canyon was quiet again. The hunter's ship had left, damaged and smoking. Darren watched it vanish into the clouds. He didn't celebrate. He knew more would come inside the ship. Aya sat beside the crystal, still glowing softly, her hands were warm, her face calm but tired. When Darren stepped back in, she looked up at him with worried eyes. I didn't mean to send the light, she said. I just wanted to protect you. You did protect me, Darren said, sitting beside her. That wave you sent. It knocked him down. Aya nodded slowly. I felt something big. It came from my heart. Darren placed his hand on hers. That's your gift, he said. But it's also your burden. She didn't answer. She just leaned her head against his arm and whispered, I don't want to hurt people. You won't, Darren said. Because you care. The next morning, they moved to a new hiding spot. Farther from the last location, deeper into the mountains where no one could scan them. Darren repaired the stealth systems, added extra shielding, and taught Aya more every day. They practiced using her energy in small ways. Lifting stones, warming cold metal, or lighting dark rooms. Aya was nervous at first, but slowly she began to trust herself. One day, while training, she made a flower bloom with just her hand. Darren watched in awe. That's not just power. He said, that's life. Aya smiled for the first time in days. I made something pretty. You did, Darren said. And one day, you'll do more. But peace, as always, didn't last. That night, Lex gave a warning. Alliance ship detected. High orbit, scanning surface. Darren froze. That's not a hunter, he said. That's a government warship. Aya looked afraid again. Are they here for me? Maybe, Darren said. Maybe they just want the crystal, Lex interrupted. Message incoming from the ship. Play it, Darren ordered. A voice filled the cabin, cold and firm. This is Commander Revik of the Galactic Alliance. We know what you are hiding. Surrender the child and the Urea crystal. You have 12 hours. Aya hugged the crystal tightly. Darren turned off the message and paced the room. We can't outrun them, he said. They'll find us no matter where we go. Then let's talk to them, Aya said quietly. No, Darren replied. They don't want to talk. They want to control you. Aya stood up, glowing slightly. I won't be a weapon. Darren looked at her. Then what do you want to be? I want to be free, she said, and I want to stay with you. He nodded. Then we fight smart for the next few hours, they prepared. Darren connected the crystal to the ship's power core. Aya focused her energy to create a protective field around the ship. When the Alliance drop team landed, they were ready. For soldiers approached in heavy armor, Darren stood at the entrance with his blaster. Aya stood behind him, silent and glowing. Step aside. The leader ordered. She's too dangerous to live freely. She's a child, Darren said. And she's my daughter. She's not even your species, the soldier snapped. She's more human than you, Darren growled. Aya stepped forward. I don't want to fight, she said, but I won't go with you. The soldiers raised their weapons. Before Darren could fire, Aya raised her hands. A shockwave of golden light burst from her. The soldiers froze in place. Unable to move, I'm not hurting them. Aya whispered, I'm just holding them. Darren stared at her in awe. You're controlling it? Aya nodded. I don't want pain, I want peace. Darren walked over to the frozen commander. You go back to your ship. He said, tell them she's under my protection. The commander couldn't move, but he could hear. Darren stared into his visor. If you come back, we'll be ready. Aya slowly released her energy. The soldiers dropped to the ground, dazed but unharmed. They crawled back to their shuttle and flew away. Aya sat down, exhausted. That took a lot, she said. Darren carried her back inside and wrapped her in a blanket. You were amazing. He said, you didn't just stop them. You showed them something they don't understand. Aya looked up at him, eyes heavy with sleep. What's that? Mercy, Darren said, and strength. She closed her eyes. I learned it from you, Dad. Darren sat beside her all night. Outside, the stars shined quietly, and above them. The warship drifted away. For now, the galaxy had stepped back. But they both knew it was not over. It was only the beginning. The fire crackled softly inside the cave where Darren and Aya had taken shelter. The ship was hidden deep inside the mountain now. Sealed with rocks and camo, Darren worked silently. Checking power levels and radio signals, Aya sat nearby, drawing in the dirt with her finger. Her eyes focused, but her heart heavy. They both knew what had changed. Aya had shown the galaxy who she was. Not a weak alien girl, not a weapon, but a living force, powerful and aware. Dad, she said, not looking up. They'll come back, won't they? Darren nodded slowly. They will, he said. They always do. Aya paused, then looked at him. I don't want to keep running. I know, Darren said. But if we stop, we have to choose how to face them. At that moment, a soft beep came from the ship's console. Lex spoke clearly. Incoming encrypted message from unknown source. Darren raised an eyebrow. Open it. A small hologram blinked into life. It showed a tall alien woman with orange eyes and white armor. My name is Vela, she said. I lead the Last Voice, a hidden group that fights for alien refugees. We know about the girl. Darren stepped closer, alert but curious. We don't want her power, Vela continued. We want her safe. We believe she could unite species that fear each other. Aya watched quietly, her glowing hands resting in her lap. She is not a weapon, Vela said. She is hope. The message ended. Lex displayed coordinates deep in the trinary system, far from Alliance space. Darren turned to Aya. What do you think? He asked. Aya didn't answer right away. Then she stood up and walked to the edge of the cave, looking at the stars. After a while, she said, I want to go. You trust them? No, she replied, but I want to stop hiding, Darren. Walked over and sat beside her. I don't want to lose you. You won't, Aya said. You'll come with me, right? Darren smiled. Always. They left before sunrise. The ship moved quietly through the sky, following hidden routes and avoiding signals. Darren stayed on high alert while Aya sat beside him, holding the crystal tight as they passed through asteroid fields and shadow zones. They saw no signs of pursuit, but something else waited at the edge of the Trinari system, a small resistance base camouflaged inside a moon's crust. When they landed, several aliens approached slowly. Different species, all peaceful, all scarred by war. Vela stepped forward, tall and calm. Her voice was soft but strong. You made it. Aya held onto Darren's hand tightly. Who are they? She whispered. People who lost everything to Darren replied. Like us. Vela knelt to Aya's level. We won't touch your power, she said. We only want to give you a home. Aya looked into her eyes, searching for lies, but all she saw was pain and truth. Inside the base, they saw families hiding, scientists building, and children laughing. Aya felt something warm inside her. Not energy, not fear, but belonging. Later, in a quiet room, Vela showed them a map of the known systems. The Alliance is watching, she said. They fear her. They should, Darren replied. Because they don't understand her, but understanding begins with choice, Vela said. And that choice must be hers. Darren looked at Aya. You don't have to be a symbol, he said. You can just be a girl. Aya shook her head. No, she said. If I can help others feel safe, I want to try. You're sure? He asked. Yes, Aya said, her voice steady, but only if you stay with me. Darren smiled and placed a hand on her shoulder. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. Together, they stood on a platform above the base, looking out into the stars. Aya raised the crystal. It glowed brighter than ever before. Lex spoke from the ship in the distance, power levels rising. Aya's light reached into the sky, sending a soft wave across space, a message without words. Peace, courage, truth. In distant systems, receivers blinked. Some ignored the signal. Others paused and listened. On a distant ship, Commander Revik saw the signal too. He frowned and turned to his crew. She's choosing her own path. What do we do? One soldier asked. Revik stood in silence. Then he said, we wait, back on the base. Aya sat beside Darren again. He held a small cup of warm liquid. She leaned her head on his arm. Did I do something good today? She asked. You did more than good, he said. You gave people hope. Aya smiled, eyes heavy with sleep. You're still my dad, right? Always, Darren whispered. No matter where the stars take us, the lights dimmed, the base quiet and in the heart. Of the galaxy, a child once hunted was now free, not because of her power, but because she chose to be. The days passed quietly at the resistance base on the moon. Aya trained every morning, but not in weapons or war. She trained in focus, in peace, in self-control. Darren stayed by her side, watching her grow stronger each day. The crystal no longer pulsed with wild power. Now it shined softly, like it had finally found its match. Aya was learning to connect with her gift without fear, and in return, the gift responded with calm. Vela walked with Darren one evening across the upper halls. "She is more than we expected," Vela said. "She is not just powerful, she's brave," Darren replied, "and she's kind." Vela stopped and looked out through the glass dome. "The galaxy is watching her," she said. "She will need to speak soon." "Speak?" Darren asked. "To who?" "To everyone," Vela answered. "She must choose a name for herself and her message to the stars." That night, Darren told Aya about it. She sat quietly in her small room, the crystal floating near her hands. "They want me to speak?" she asked. Darren nodded. "It's your story, Aya. They want to hear it from you." Aya looked unsure. "I don't know the right words. Just speak from your heart," he said. That's where the truth is. The next day, the base prepared the message room, cameras, translators, and signals all ready to send across systems, not just to humans, but to all species. Aya stood before the panel, wearing a simple white cloak. She took a deep breath as the lights turned on. The galaxy was listening. "My name," she said softly, "was Aya." Darren watched from the side, heart pounding. Aya continued, her voice growing stronger. "I was born on Yuria, a planet that no longer shines. My people are gone, but I survived." She touched the crystal, which lit up like a small sun. "They called me a key, a weapon, a danger, but no one asked me what I wanted." She paused, looking straight into the camera. "I want peace. I want children to sleep without fear. I want families to stay together." She looked over at Darren, then back to the galaxy. "I found someone who didn't see me as a threat. He didn't run from me. He didn't sell me. He called me his daughter." Darren felt a lump in his throat. "I am not just energy," she said. "I am not war. I am life." She raised the crystal high, and a wave of light filled the chamber. Not violent, not loud, just warm. A message without words. When the signal ended, millions across the galaxy had seen it. Some turned off their screens, afraid of change, but others sat in silence, moved by her voice. In a meeting room on Earth, a council leader whispered, "She didn't ask for power. She asked for peace." In a mining colony near the edge of space, children painted Aya's symbol on walls. In a hidden Alliance lab, scientists watched in silence, and in Darren's heart, something bloomed. Later, Aya walked outside the base with Darren. The stars were bright above them. She held his hand and smiled. "Was that okay?" she asked. "You were perfect," he said. "Brave, honest, and strong." Aya looked up. "Can I choose a new name now?" Darren nodded. "It's yours to choose," she thought for a moment, then said, "I want to be called Ilara." "Ilara," he repeated. "It suits you. It was the name of a sky guardian in Urea stories." She said she protected the weak, not with power, but with heart. Darren smiled. "Then, Ilara, it is." In the following weeks, something strange began to happen. Ships started visiting the moon base, not to fight, but to talk. Aliens, humans, and hybrid colonies sent messages of support. Some sent books, some sent food, others sent stories. They didn't want control. They wanted hope. Ilara became a name spoken with care, not as a symbol of power, but of a future where no child had to run again. Darren stayed close to her, not as a protector anymore, but as family. She was still a child, still learning. But now she was also a leader. One evening, Alara sat with Darren under the stars again. "Do you think she'd be proud of me?" she asked. "My real mother." Darren looked at her. She would be more than proud. She gave the galaxy a daughter who refused to break. Alara closed her eyes. "I miss her, I know," Darren said softly, "but you carry her in. Every step you take." Silence fell over them for a while. Then Alara said, "You saved me." Darren shook his head. "No," he whispered. "You saved me," as the stars shifted above, and quiet winds passed over the mountain rock. A girl, once lost, became a beacon. And the man who found her in a broken ship became her home, not because of blood, not because of fate, but because of choice. The girl who had asked, "Can I call you Dad?" had become something more, and the man who said yes had found meaning. In the stars again, together, they had written a story the galaxy would never forget.